Man United are back! Or are they? Because although they do look better now than they did during that recent run of 4 defeats in a row, the important thing to remember is that recent run of 4 defeats in a row was still recent. And it seems clear to me that if they brought in some new players, they'd be a lot better. But who? Who should they sign? Welcome to Sensible Transfers, where we look for weaknesses in squads and identify solutions to those problems. And remember, it's not what we think the clubs will do, it's what we think they should do. So let's look at what Man United actually need. They've got 2 good goalkeepers, that's fine. They've got 3 decent centre-backs. I think in the future they might look for a left-footed centre-back, but it's not necessarily right now. I think they can improve on Højlund up top, but he needs game time to improve. And Bruno Fernandes has pretty much made this position his as a left inside forward, or whatever you want to call it. They've got options wide with Ahmad as well. They can play Garnacho either side. But I think the improvements they can make that I see most clearly are at wing back and central midfield. And I want to start with central midfield first. Now United do already have midfielders, of course. Ugarte is going to be the one who wins the ball. He did the same thing for Sporting under Amorim as well. But I think this position here for Menu is where they could improve, because Menu, although he's a very good player, I think is best in tight spaces where he can try to dribble past people and create things in the final third, rather than being an all-rounder, expected to cover lots of distances like he has to out of possession. He doesn't have the physicality or aggression, I think, the defensive nous just yet to be this player. But on the bench they have Casemiro, who might leave and doesn't have the, I would say, the speed to get around the pitch well enough. Eriksen has the same problem, different kind of player, not really defensive at all. And then you've got Mason Mount, who is always injured, so you can't really rely on him. He would profile quite well in this position, I think, next to Ugarte, but it's interesting to see what will happen with him and where they can use him. He'd also fit in this position up here. So what we need is someone who can complement Ugarte, can replace Menu and allow him to develop himself, unless they get rid of him as well, obviously. But someone who is young, 23, we want a peak age there. We want someone who can be a captain, a leader in the future. Someone who is physical, tall, strong, someone who can get around the pitch, someone who's good at passing, someone who's good in possession and out of possession. And it turns out that every club in the world wants one of these players. And I've had to scour through Europe to try and find examples who I think would be the right fit for Man United. And for context, here's a list of players who I've ruled out for one reason or another. Bruno Guimaraes, too expensive. Hugo Larsson. And João Gomes at Wolves. I've done the work, and for a long time I had a 28-year-old experienced midfielder who might be quite cheap, who would give them something in Lewis Cook. But this is Manchester United Football Club we're talking about. We need the very best in the world. And so I have 2 picks for you who I think could be the best player for this position. Starting with the wonderkid future long-term success option of Pablo Barrios. Now, he is a superstar in the making. Already starts at Atletico Madrid despite being 21 years old. He was starting last season too. He is an all-rounder with more of a defensive mind. He is a perfect player for this position for Man United. Yes, he'd be very expensive, but I think he could be the best in this position in the world at some point in the future. So you can see he looks good from his FBref profile. Remember, he's really, really young, but this is his numbers on Smarter Scout last season when he was only 20. So you can see here already, he's a very rounded player, does a little bit of everything quite well. And to do that at such a young age is very impressive. For contrast, here's him compared to Kobbie Mainoo last season. And again, you can see really clearly the difference in how rounded his profile is compared to Mainoo, who is a bit younger. So both players will improve over time. I think you'll see more in Barrios' pizza chart going forward, whereas Mainoo will probably specialise at the more advanced playmaking stuff in his career. That's what I'd expect from him. But there are more specific reasons why I think he'd be really good for United, and it's to do with how they actually play under Amorim. So here he is circled, he's looking up, he's got some options on the pitch, you see nice short ones, but the real option, and as it will be for Man United, is a wing back on the opposite side running into space. Here he is. And so what you have here is Barrios looks up and threads this perfect loop ball over the top for what I would see as a wing back for United to get in behind, and then you get this ball across the 6-yard box for a striker to finish. That's what Amorim wants his wing backs to do for United. That's in possession. Out of possession is where I think you really see him come to life. He doesn't react to danger, he anticipates it, and that's the key difference. It's a really mature trait to have of a player so young. So here he is circled amongst some other players here. The ball's turned over, but what you'll notice is the real danger is not here, it is here. This massive space between the Atletico backline and the midfield and forwards. This is the kind of thing that used to happen to Man United quite a lot and will do in a 2-man midfield system. But what you get from Barrios is he reacts, well, anticipates the danger straight away, sees the runner, follows him, has the speed and physicality to track with him, and when the ball does end up in a bit of a 50-50, he's just stronger, has read the play, gets his foot round and wins the ball back, and Atletico can go forward. He is, what I think, the perfect player for Man United for the next 10 years, or any top team in Europe. He'll be very expensive as a result, but that's my first pick. I have a second player for you though, and it's a player you might remember from quite recently because he played for Aston Villa not long ago. They had to sell him to Juventus for PSR reasons, and now I'm going to put him back in Man United's team in the Premier League because Douglas Luiz is not really starting at Juventus. There's a few reasons. One of them is injuries. The second is possibly that the manager doesn't quite fancy him in that role. They already have 3 good midfielders in that Juve team already. So Luiz would come in and give you the deep lying playmaking that you want in this position as a complement to Ugarte. And Luiz, I would say, is more of an all-round midfield than certain others. He's not a specialist, but you would get more progressive passes and carries, good under pressure, good at retaining possession, not as strong defensively, but you have Ugarte there, so it complements each other, and I think this would work quite well. But wait, just for fun, I have a transfer so unsensible we're going to have to brand it as a wild card. And I warn you, at first this transfer will sound stupid, but it will make more sense, more and more sense, the more you think about it. Because I think Man United could actually bring in Matheus Nunes from Man City. Now, let me explain. Man City don't know what to do with him. They don't know what to do with Nunes. They're playing him as an attacking wide left. They're playing him as a wing back. He doesn't seem to suit what they want as a 6 or an 8. But Matheus Nunes is an 8, and he was best, I think, playing at Sporting under Ruben Amorim 2.5 years ago in a midfield 2. Because Nunes' profile will perfectly complement Manuel Ugarte, who he played with at Sporting. And sure enough, he has not been amazing for Man City recently. He's made some dreadful errors, poor passing, they don't know what to do with him, like I said. But his numbers still look decent on the FBref profile, and if we look at what he was playing as before, we can see the potential that is still there. He's only 26, so he's in his peak right now. So Matheus Nunes, this is his numbers from Smarter Scout when he was at Sporting in 21-22. Remember, playing alongside Manuel Ugarte. And what you see is he's clearly a carry and dribbler player. So a player who can help you in transitions, plays as a double midfield duo, and he can take the ball, turn, go, drive you up the pitch and create things. He's also really good with defending intensity, lots and lots of volume here. But you can see just one example of one goal he sets up for Sporting, what you'd get from him in a midfield too. So here he is. What you want is physicality. We talked about that. Someone who can cover distances, someone who can be aggressive in and out of possession. Here he is. He's got the ball. He's being chased by 2 players. He is strong enough to hold this player off, gets his body in front of it to shield it, and keeps going. And then he's clever, changes direction, takes 3 players out with his one move. Here he is coming forward now, and he's spotted, same as earlier, there's a player on the opposite side. The wing back is going forward into this space on the side. This is the player. Matheus Nunes has the passing range. You might not remember it or just not seen it recently. He doesn't do these things for Man City for some reason, whatever reason that is. He can do this. This turns into a goal. So Matheus Nunes in a midfield 2 is his best position. It would suit him playing alongside someone like Manuel Ugarte. He would be the best player he could be. Man City would get rid of someone they don't really need that much. It might just work. And just one more thing. What Nunes could also do, based on what we've seen at Man City, is cover a few different positions. He can play the inside left position if Fernandes isn't there, or you want to play him as a progressive passer, then you've got this player here. He can cover at left wing back if they have injuries. He can play either side of the midfield too. You can even probably just put him up into this position here and help out there. It's a multi-positional player who I think would make this squad stronger. That's my justification, and it does make sense, doesn't it? That's the midfield sorted, we've fixed it, but now we need to look at the wing backs, and specifically the left side, because I think these 2 players here have this position pretty much nailed down. These 2 are semi-decent. I think they could be doing with being more attack-minded. Mazraoui is more a defensive player, I'd say. Dalot keeps staying deeper when he probably want him to move up the pitch, and I'll explain what I mean by this and why that's so important in a second. On the left-hand side, you've got Malacia and Shaw, who are both too injured too much of the time to be able to rely on. So you need this player. This is really important. And the wing backs are fundamentally vital within a Ruben Amorim system because all the width comes from them. Because these players here, like Fernandes and Ahmad, they're not really wide players. They can move into wide areas, but you need the underlapping run to justify it. So you need someone who can attack and get forward early. There's a great bit of analysis by Jamie Carragher on Sky Sports recently where he shows the unwillingness of the wing backs to get forward early. And what happens is if you have the ball here and you're back in your back 5, if the player doesn't charge forward immediately, once the ball goes forward, you're just too narrow, and so you're trapped and the opposition can squeeze you in, you can't go anywhere. What you need as soon as the ball turns over is this player to get forward immediately. So you've got an option out wide. So you create a triangle or a diamond in this sort of shape. You can't be too deep. You need to try and have diamonds in these positions, and these players have to get forward to do that. But they also have to not get too far forward too early. Because one of the other things that tactically Ruben Amorim does is he makes sure that there is space here for the outside, interior player to move into. So I'll give you a back 4 to show what I mean. So here's the back 4 or 4-4-2 we're playing against here. Dalot's creeping up the pitch. So if you have a fullback here, what's most likely going to happen is that they'll push out, or this person will push out here. But the thing is, what you want is to do is create a bit of tension. So there is this space here for Fernandes to move into, because it creates more opportunities for other players to move forward and get into. If you are a wing back and you're here, suddenly this player drops in and then that space has gone because you've got all players trapped in here. You need to be a bit deeper to create this space, drag someone out to do this. So it's got to be someone who's really tactically switched on, who understands when to go to offer the pass going forward, but knows not to go too far forward too early so they can creep up and get that switched pass we've been looking at, but who also can create the space for the inside left to go into. And so we need an attacking-minded left wing-back. And I have put all my football eggs in one soccer basket and picked Ryan Ait-Nouri for the left wing-back. I think he's the perfect option for Man United and a lot of other teams as well. And his numbers show he's kind of got everything we're looking for. His profile fits exactly what we want, really, from a wing-back for United. This is his numbers on Smarter Scout from last season when he played the majority of the time as a wing-back. As you can see, again, a strong all-rounder, good at improving his progressive passing. But what's interesting about this is that last season his numbers were really good for progressive passing. In fact, his numbers were good all round last season for Wolves. He had the 6th highest expected goals of any player on the Wolves team in the Premier League. So that's something you want from an Amorim wing-back, is someone who's getting into goal-scoring positions. And despite having a low progressive pass number there, he had the 5th most progressive passes for any Wolves player last season, and this season he has the 3rd most. So what you get is a player who knows when to attack, knows when to defend, is tactically disciplined, can still improve, would cost money but be worth it in the long term. He's got good numbers all round. It seems too perfect to be true. And that is my left wing-back pick for United. So there you have it. I have fixed Man United with some excellent, sensible transfers that were very hard to find. It took a long time. And yes, they might be expensive, but United have to pay if they're going to be good again. That's what they've got to do. But remember, this is just what I think they should do, not what they will do. If you want to know what they will do and are doing, I suggest you read The Athletic, especially the deal sheet, where all the real journalists do actual news reporting on real stories, not gossip, all the real stories. And that's where you find out there. So go and read The Athletic and learn all about the real transfers. That'll be good. And that's the end of Man United Sensible Transfers for another January. See you later.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including David Ornstein, Amy Lawrence, and James Horncastle. With the latest transfer news and insights on every Premier League story that matters, theathletic.com puts you inside football, and you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.